book Codependence Forevermore, The Invention of Self in a 12-Step Group by Leslie Irvine, and it's a study of the experience of selfhood. First, I'm going to define what Codependent Anonymous is. It's a self-help program that attracts people who have experienced a divorce or the breakup of a committed relationship. It offers a way to account for their experience and a way of making sense of their lives. The only requirement for membership is a desire for healthy and fulfilling relationships with others and ourselves. It's a response to concerns unique to these times. For example, the rising divorce rate and the fragility of relationships help to account for the mostly generational character of codependency's appeal. Additionally, they gain a sense of self through stories. This group believes that the self is created in the stories people tell about themselves. The members share narratives in which their experience is made meaningful. It shapes the interpretation a person gives the events of his or her life and becomes the point of that life. And lastly, Leslie Irvine defines Codependent Anonymous as an institutional light. First, this means that it attracts people who appreciate structure and routine but have lost the basis for those elements in their lives. Second, it has structure and reliability, but not too much. The members have freedom to choose the group. Third, it has reliability without obligations. The group's continued experience depends on those who feel the need to serve or who feel a sense of obligation to the group. Fourth, individuals are encouraged to live, let live, or leave. In other words, anyone who becomes uncomfortable must endure, join a different group, or leave altogether. And lastly, Codependent Anonymous depends on meaningful ritual in which members bring their own meaning to the group. It maintains that it's not a religious program, but a spiritual one. You are free to believe in whatever you want as long as you believe in something. So she did this study a course of 17 months along Long Island and in New York City. Out of all the members, 58 of them were women. The average was 40 to 45 years of age, and they're mostly white and middle class. Most of the time, Irvine participated in the meetings and talked about herself, but groups she visited only once or a few times she solely observed. After each meeting, she took notes as soon as possible, usually within the hour. Irvine simultaneously compared her developing theoretical concept with interview material and with books on codependency. So the discourse, therapeutic ethos, and narrative strategy are common terms she uses throughout her novel. First, discourse is the domain of language used as unified by common assumptions. Therapeutic ethos is a collection of discourses that have developed over the past 30 years in which is a characteristically American spirit that everyone is allegedly entitled to happiness and personal satisfaction. Through the therapeutic ethos, individuals portray the self as innately good and with needs that deserve priority over conforming to society's needs. These individuals withdraw from the institutions of American society. Codependency, they claim, constitutes a disease in its own right. Lastly is narrative strategy. By this she means how individuals organize their life and choose particular choices that make sense. Members are free to tell stories, but there is a specific structure what constitutes a good story, which is known as the narrative formula. First, the members speak of their abusive childhood. Even in the absence of obvious family troubles, members went to great lengths to invent them. Child abuse included general inadequacy, overwork, and Catholicism. Since you have ended up in Codependent Anonymous, the abuse must have occurred. The developed stories about abuse childhoods become their experience. Second, the members talk about excusing dysfunction. By this, any relationship or situation that has less than satisfactory outcome qualifies as dysfunctional. They blame on an intrinsic flaw or dysfunction in their relationship, thereby relieving themselves of their share of the interactional responsibility. Third, by having survived hitting bottom, they suggest competence and maturity that help redeem the self from failure. Fourth, a working program. By a working program, members demonstrate to themselves and to the group that they are serious about recovery. And lastly, through redeeming the past, members speak about the life of recovery and the hardship codependency brought is portrayed as all for the best, thereby showing that he or she has indeed learned something through their misfortune. Overall, good stories need satisfying endings. Since the lives of these members are still in progress, the endings must tolerate ambiguity. First, members use codependency as a strategy of transition. This discourse gives them access to a sense of self that reflects the fluidity of their lives and is capable of surviving transition. The belief in the essential self helps them adapt to their loss. By this, their sense of self does not depend on being attached to particular others. If convinced of this essential self, they can have relationships without the fear that they will again lose the sense of who they are. Secondly, members use codependency as a strategy of emotion management. Codependents illustrated how they lost touch with their own feelings and their concern for pleasing others. The common themes included getting in touch with their emotion, the notion of I feel therefore I am, and if I feel good, I must be in touch with who I really am. Third, members use codependency as a narrative of equality and respect. The event of uncoupling becomes a time not just to shop for another partner, but to seriously assess the beliefs and expectations they hold about relationships. The men of Codependent Anonymous described themselves as different from other men. By this, they were open to self-criticism and change. Additionally, they want to create an image of man that opposes that of the typical male. Men and women who use this strategy want to create more equitable relationships. Lastly, and least common, members use codependency as a narrative of victimization. Members who identify with this strategy are usually the partner in which gets broken up with. Thus, they experience a double hardship. They feel betrayed by an initiator who has clearly planned his or her escape, and they lack the resources to respond to the initiator's action with either grace or acceptance. These members believe that they are too wounded, too weak, and too badly abused to do anything but focus on themselves. They organize their life around their losses and wear it as a badge of honor. The abuses they have endured now justify the self-indulgences they deserve in recovery. The obligation to do what you want translates into taking care of yourself. As this narrative strategy brings temporary comfort during a painful and confusing experience, it can actually prolong a partner's attachment to an initiator. I connected this study to Merton's string theory because in a sense the members of Codependent Anonymous could be described as a part of the rebellion group in which they are outside the social structure, since they believe it is dysfunctional, and seek to bring a new modified social structure into their lives. The two major critiques of this study I found were the short duration and the problem with extreme confidentiality. By studying the group for only 17 months, it is possible that many characteristics of the members could have been overlooked or different if she had studied them for a longer period of their life. Secondly, through the extreme confidentiality of the self-help program, it was hard for Irvine to receive personal information and demographics. For example, Irvine placed most members as the middle class by referring to appearance and demeanor, which is not a very accurate way to determine the social class of a person.